I'm Claudine Wong from KTVU in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm joined now by Joe Owen to talk about some of his fundraising efforts and all his travels over many, many miles uphill in the Bay Area here. Joe, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so you are a soccer coach who has not been able to play a lot of soccer as we shelter in place, and you have been running a lot. I want to talk about this GoFundMe that you started, and here's what it is. You wanted to raise $1,000. You raised $3,000, but here's the deal. You're at a summit picture here at 3,800 feet. Tell me about how you raised this money.
So I enjoy running on Mount Diablo a ton, and beginning in the month of April, when we found out we were going to be shelter in place again for a full another month, I thought about what could be one of the most extreme first mental challenges that I could put upon myself, and then a physical challenge. And so I took on the Mount Diablo mountain for 30 summits in 30 days. I nicknamed it the 30 and 30 April Summit Crush.
Oh my
And
gosh.
running for me has become something that I felt there's got to be something greater than just running itself. So I started getting involved with some charities during my runs last year, and there was just this real emotional lift that it gave to me, knowing I could help other people. So a good colleague of mine and friend, Alex Lobbin, actually joined me for a run,
Mm-hmm.
and started talking about some things that we could impact the community with. And we both agreed that the food bank, Contra Costa and Solana, would be a great one at this moment with what we're going through. And I'm not great with social media. Alex is fantastic with it. So we collaborated on some things, and he started the donation page pretty late in the challenge, but I was blown away by what we were able to accomplish in just a very short amount of time.
Pretty amazing. How does it change the experience? I mean, I will tell you, for people, and I'll pull some of the pictures up of your run, for people who don't understand what Mount Diablo is, I get tired driving up Mount Diablo, because when you're talking about the elevation change, and I'm always impressed by people who are either cycling or running, but when you talk about that summit, that's no small feat. I mean, how hard of a run is it?
It's a difficult run. So I stay on the trails the entire way. There's obviously a lot of different ways you could start the run from surrounding areas in the communities. I chose to start around the Athenian and
Mm-hmm.
Alameda Diablo areas, which kind of gets you on a trail pretty quick, and you can follow the summit trail the entire way.
It's
Uh,
spectacular, by the way. These pictures are beautiful.
Thank you.
If you're not breathing too hard and you can stop and
It
enjoy
gives
it, it's
me a
pretty
good
amazing.
reason to stop and take a picture. Um,
Miles, it's 30 miles.
So no, you can go the route that I chose. Most of these runs were right around 14 miles. It's basically a 7 mile climb straight up from where you started Athenian, and then you come straight back down, which is kind of fun. But there's so many different trails on the mountain that you can take to get to the top. And some days I altered my routes to change it up, and just for peace of mind and to see different parts of the mountain, and it can extend the run quite a bit. I made the challenge so that my shortest run was never less than 13.3 miles. And,
You slacker.
I know, I know.
So I
And
guess as we pull these pictures up, though, as we're taking a look, were there days that you didn't want to run? Were there days where you're like, maybe I took on too much, or is this?
no, I never felt that way, which that was part of it. You know, it was a real mental challenge first. Could I get up and just do this every day for 30 days, knowing what was in front of me? And um, it's amazing what you can find, just from your mindset to become stronger at this. But I embraced it. And like I said, I think I ran in 25 days like that, where the fog was just adding a new development to the run, And so um, I
Changes.
don't remember one day where I said, what am I doing?
Well,
You know,
that's good.
I embraced it.
But
So
did it change as more people signed up to donate money? Then you're not really running alone anymore. You've got a
yeah.
silently cheering crowd behind you as you're making your way.
Absolutely. And that's what for me was the biggest drive getting me through the finish line was, like I said, we got this started pretty late, And on my final day, I chose to do a 30-mile run. And some of my friends were sending me some messages throughout the run, telling me where we were with the donations, just taking off. And it just absolutely fueled my day. It didn't ever feel like I was tired. I just knew we were doing something, what that run was.
Why do you think people did respond in the way they did? You know, I mean, obviously, you're doing something that some people can't imagine doing that on their own. You're helping a cause that, you know, is obviously a great cause, especially now as we all shelter in place and so many people are in need. But
Yeah.
what do you think really kind of spoke to people that made it take off in the way it did?
I just think we live in a great community, to be honest with you. I think the area that we're in, we have a lot of active people in our community. They embrace these kind of challenges, but then when you throw something that has a greater cause to it that they feel they can help and impact our community in doing something, I think we have a lot of very, very caring individuals in this community. And that's what it came down to is once we found out that we could spread the word with this, it just took off. And that's what makes you realize kind of where you're at, where you live, who you're surrounded by, and how we can make a difference.
Yeah, and so in terms of when people did people check in with you? I mean, were these strangers or friends? Did you find people making connections? Did people want to run want to run it with you? I mean,
Yeah.
how did it change and grow?
Yeah, a lot of people in the running community that were following me along as they kind of figured out what my challenge was, definitely wanted to join in or just encourage me each day as I was posting my runs. I had a couple of very, very close friends of mine that joined me for a couple of runs. With it, that was a big lift for me because being kind of on your own every single day is fine for me, but
Hmm.
it's also nice to share a conversation with a good friend, helping them get to the top of the mountain too. Some of my buddies had never gone to the top of the mountain, so doing that and getting them up to the top, they were, felt this lift, and then just
And then,
really the
yeah,
cause was pretty neat.
yeah. Did you train for it? I mean, people are going to want to know what kind of athlete you are
Yeah,
in terms of being able to do that. Because some people might say, you know, that's great, but the first day I would only make it up halfway. You know, I mean, how much training and you're an ultra runner. I mean, this is kind of what you do. I mean, you're done with the challenge, but you're already I think missing the mountain.
yeah, missing the mountain. Yeah, so I started ultra running about 7 years ago. Mount Diablo is just an area that I'm extremely drawn to, I think because the challenge it presents, but also because, like you say, you see these pictures, the beauty that you can surround yourself in when you run. So I run Mount Diablo probably anywhere from 1 to 3 days a week, anyways. And so, just getting out there and training like that's pretty normal. 30 days with no rest days built in there, that was the challenge. Uh, but my body responded pretty well, and I knew the terrain. I knew exactly where I was going most days and what to expect. So that helped. But with ultra running, you kind of build up a tolerance to these kind of runs. And there's a lot of really good ultra runners in our community that inspire you to keep pushing yourself.
It is a big community. You know, in terms of your other life as a soccer coach, I'll pull
Mhm.
up that picture of your
Yeah,
kiddos there so we can see that.
yeah,
But you know, we lead by example as well, and certainly I know that obviously we miss we miss sports, whatever span of whatever sport you are. We are missing that sense of camaraderie and that sense of feeling, that sense of being able to have that rush that people get in terms of fitness in their games. I mean, obviously your boys there holding up medals like that feeling. I think there's some part to that setting that example that you can find it in different places as well.
yeah, for sure. I think that I'll never forget what my coaches did for me as a youth soccer player, the way that they inspired me and really helped me along. I always use that as my first example for myself as a coach is how much of an impact those guys had on my life and the impact that I could have on so many kids' lives in our club or just in general. So I know right now with what we're going through, we can only have these Zoom trainings and Zoom meetings so much before the kids really start missing being around each other. And like you said, the camaraderie. And so, it's great that I can motivate them in certain ways. If it's a fitness thing, if it's a soccer thing, if it's just motivational speaking with them, goal setting with them during this time to get them through it, knowing that we will get back in the field one day and enjoy that time. I think we're going to really, really feel grateful about having that opportunity to get back again, and what I think we should never take for granted.
Did they
Uh,
know you were doing this?
they found out kind of late. Yeah, and I don't know that they believed me. And then one of the guys in the last day says to me, he says, Coach, you always tell us, to finish strong. So I think you should finish this last day off harder than you've ever done. And I had already completed my 30-mile run by the time you sent me the message. I said, I already got you.
I already got you. And then, it's amazing because you can do this for 30 days. You can raise thousands of dollars for the food bank. And the next question that people always ask is, oh, okay, so what's next?
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to rest. You have to do something else because this was great because you were successful.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the question. What's
Yeah,
next?
my next thing's gonna be, I want to run the Iron Horse Trail from start to finish twice. So I'll go ahead, and that's like a 55-mile, pretty flat though,
You
run.
still said 55 miles, okay? So
Yeah,
flat is
55. So I wanted to do that back in January, but I ended up doing a trail race instead, which thank God I did, because everything else has been canceled along the way. So I think I'm going to do that in the next 7 to 10 days. And then I've got some really cool trail runs mapped out around Mount Diablo, Los Trampas, Lake Chabot area to kind of take on some long runs.
what is the longest run you've ever done in one stretch?
I finished some 70 mile runs. I have one that I have two races that are the only two races I haven't finished, and they are just driving me crazy. It's a 100-mile race from Flagstaff, Arizona to the Grand Canyon, and I've attempted
Wow.
twice. I was winning the race both times, and I've had either one year I fractured my ankle along the way, so I had to drop, and the next year I had to drop out from a nutritional failing. And so I'm going back, I'm scheduled to go back in September, and I'm going to finish that one. My
Wow.
wife has told me that if I get, because it's the same point that I got to both times, and she said, if you get there again, I'm locking the door in the car. You're not getting in. You're going to finish the race.
She's like, if you
Yeah.
have to, how many miles in was that point?
So I got to that one, I got to 67 miles both times, and just for one reason or another, I just couldn't continue. And but I did finish a couple of others that were in the 70-mile range that I ran start to finish, and some really extreme conditions, which that's part of why we do it. That's the adventure, and so it's been fun.
Well,
So
that's that's amazing. I mean, we're like, oh, you went 70, you can go 30 more. I'm
yeah.
just telling you, like the longest run I've ever been on was a half marathon, and up until that, about 8 miles was my space. That extra 5 was a lot for me.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what this extra 30 after your longest stretch. But I applaud you 100%. Do you think you will stick with the food banks? There are obviously so many places in need, but the food bank is never without need, certainly.
Yeah, that one for me, when I realized the impact, even today, just getting up this morning and looking at things, man, I'm just really thankful for everything that everyone's done to help that cause. And I just know we can keep going. So I'm driven to keep going. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any stopping you.
Yeah.
Joe Owen, congratulations on
Thank you.
a great fundraiser, on a great physical feat, and for sharing that with so many people in need. It's very impressive.
I appreciate it. Thank you very
So
much.
great talking to you.
Thank
And for more interviews, all you have to do is log on to coronavirusnow.com. Thanks so much for joining us.